Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be learning about how to make a maze in Scratch. This maze will involve moving your character around the screen using the arrow keys, creating solid walls that your character cannot pass through, or even walls that send you back to spawn. When you finish the maze, your character gets to move on to the next level, and the next, and the next. The game continues until you press the stop sign. Let's get right into it. So here I am in a completely new project. All I've done here is to change the name. Everything else is completely new here. To start things off, let's get our cat moving around the screen. When a certain key is pressed, we want to point in that direction and move forward. The keys are up to you, but I generally prefer the up, down, left, and right arrow keys, and so for this I'll start with the up arrow key. Now if I press the up arrow key, I want to make sure I'm pointing in the right direction, so I will point in direction 0, or upwards. Then I will move 10 steps. You can adjust this number to adjust the speed of your cat. For example, at a rate of 10 steps, the cat moves like so. However, if I made this number 3, the cat moves a lot slower. It's easier to control, but takes longer to get places. You can also raise your number to make the cat move faster. Find a speed you're happy with, and then code all 4 arrow keys. You can right-click blocks to duplicate them. However, it's not much code if you have to do it manually. Make sure that all your arrow keys correspond with all your chosen directions. Your speed should be the same for each direction. Now that we've got our cat moving, it's time to build our maze. Let's go to the stage and click on backdrops to draw our own maze. There's a few tools you'll find useful here. One of the most useful tools are the line. To create a line, select the line tool. I'd recommend an outline size of 10 for mazes, but you can use any line thickness you want. Also choose a color. I'd recommend black because it's the easiest color to work with. In order to use the line tool, simply click where you want the line to start and drag to another location to create a line. If you want lines to be really straight, you can hold down Shift as you're moving them and it'll snap it on axis. If you connect lines at the corners, they become one object. If you make a mistake, there are a few ways to fix it. One method is the erase tool, which lets you erase certain parts of your line. The second common method is the select tool. The select tool allows you to select an object, namely this line, and move it or delete it. You can also resize lines. If you make a mistake that cannot be fixed through these two methods, I'd recommend hitting undo. The undo button can be found up here next to the name. Here are some other tools you might find useful. The box tool. This allows you to create a box. Generally, it will be filled in with a solid color, which ruins the point of your maze, which is not a solid object. In order to fill it with nothingness, in order to make it hollow, you can either select a white color, or this little cross here, which represents no color. This is generally used to make the border of your maze. I'll go ahead and create a quick maze. Alright, my maze is ready. You don't have to make a maze as perfect as this, and mine could use some improvements. That said, it will do. Now, before we can make the cat sense the walls, we actually have to fix his size. As you can see, no matter where I put him in this maze, he's always touching a wall. Let's fix this by making him smaller. There's a few different ways to do this. One option is to select Sprite 1, my cat, and go to the costumes, so I can edit his costume accordingly. Another method is to go to the Looks section in your code and set size to less than 100%. You may have to mess with this number a little bit to find a good size. Once you have your maze ready and your cat fits appropriately, drag your cat to the starting point. Then grab the following blocks of code. When we start the project, or when the flag is clicked, we want to set size to our current size. And if you don't know what this number is, you can also find it down here. We then want to go to this current position. So we will go to the motion section and grab a go to X and Y. This lets us teleport to any position we want. In our case, we want him to go to the right this spot. In our case, the numbers are already typed in for us because we dragged our cat to the right spot. If you change your mind and want your cat to start somewhere else, drag him to that spot and copy his coordinates, X and Y, into your go-to block. Now when you press the flag, the cat should teleport to the right position. Lastly, make sure he's facing forward by pointing in direction 90. Now, our maze game partially works. We can move our cat around the screen and explore a wonderful maze. However, if we try to go through a wall, there's no resistance. The next step is to start sensing for walls. To do this, go to the control section and grab a forever loop. This repeats an action, or piece of code, over and over again, until you press the stop sign. Then, grab the word if-then. This is known as an if statement in programming. It tests if a condition is true, and does a certain action if it is. In this game, we want to test if we are touching the maze walls. In order to do this, let's go to the sensing section, and grab the touching color block. We will then select the color, and select the same color we used in our maze. Now earlier I mentioned the color black is the easiest color to use for this game, because you can simply slide your brightness all the way to 0. That said, if you have more intricate color, like let's say lime green, it may be a little bit harder to get this exact color scheme. Keep in mind that there are many shades of green, and different levels of saturation or brightness will affect this color. In order to perfectly select the color you used in your maze, you can use this little eyedropper tool to select a color directly off of your project. If you want to test this if statement, simply put a say hello block in the if statement. When your scratched cat touches the color black, he should say hello, and you know the if statement is working. Now, in this game, we don't want our cat to say hello. We want him to teleport back to the beginning of the game. In order to do this, you can actually reuse the go-to block from earlier. Either duplicate it, like I showed before, or grab another go-to X and Y block after pressing the flag. If the numbers are wrong, you can also manually type them yourself. Make sure to double check your cat's coordinates. Now let's test our game. Move your cat around the maze a little bit, and eventually try running into a wall. You should see your cat teleport back to start. Now, another way of making this game involves making your cat treat a wall as a solid object that he cannot pass through. In order to do this, let's disable our previous code, which teleported our cat back to start. That's this block right here. Now, all you have to do in order to make your walls solid is grab a move 10 steps block, and make him move in the negative direction. You'll want to make sure that the speed is the same as before, to counter the movement completely. So if you use a speed of 8 steps in your previous move blocks, make sure to use the same number 8 here. This way, when your cat tries to move 8 steps to pass through a wall, he'll immediately be pushed back 8 steps, and it'll look like he has stopped moving. Both of these methods are fun in games. You could use either. Make sure not to mix and match though, because only one will work. Alright, we've got our maze working. What's next? Well, mazes usually have an exit, and we've already got our starting point. In order to create the exit, I'm going to go ahead and make a new sprite. This sprite will simply be a green box. I can use the box tool and the color green in order to make a little square. Then place it where you want it in your maze. You can also make this green square part of the backdrop. Just make sure it does not have a black outline. Set outline size to 0 or choose a different color. Now, head back to your cat. We're going to do some more coding. In this forever loop, we can actually add 2 if statements, like so. While the first if statement tests for the color black, which is considered a wall, the second if statement will test for this color lime green. You'll see me use the eyedropper tool here because I don't know which light green my green is, and I don't know how bright it is. Make sure to select the exact same shade of color, otherwise Scratch will consider it a different color entirely. Now, when you touch the color green, you've officially found the end of the maze. It's up to you what you do here. You could say, "Yay, you won!" for 2 seconds. You could also have the cat get sent back to start in order to solve it again. But one of the most popular ideas I've seen so far is simply adding levels to your maze. Let's go back to the backdrops and draw another maze. I'm going to be a little bit more lazy about this one, just because it's for testing purposes, and I can come back to edit it later. Now, if you've decided to make multiple levels as I have over here, the code for this is simple. When the flag is clicked, we want to make sure we start on level 1. So I'm going to go to the Look section and grab a Switch Backdrop block, and select the backdrop I want to start with. In my case, my backdrop is called Backdrop 1. When I reach the green box, I have 2 options. I could switch backdrop to Backdrop 2, which switches specifically to the second level, or I could use the next backdrop block, which will move on to the next level in my maze, no matter which level I'm currently on. If you finished your maze and you found this idea very easy, but fun, you could try adding to it. Cool additions I've seen in the past include power-ups, moving objects, and obstacles that zap you back to spawn. Try thinking of cool ideas you could add on your own. Good luck!